And without further ado, I'm going to jump in. What you will notice about my chat is that I use slides for my presentation. Someone once asked me, why do I use slides with so much text on it? And the answer is quite simple. I am South African, so I speak in an accent that sometimes is not always so familiar to everyone else. I tend to talk quite fast when I get excited. So that coupled with an accent can make it a bit of a challenge sometimes. We also have internet connectivity issues. So sometimes the internet will go in and out, and then you may have missed something that I said, but then it is on the screen as well. Also, some of us are auditory learners, some of us are visual learners. And something to keep in mind, people say, but for keynote presentations, we need as little text as possible. This is not a keynote presentation. This is something we are doing in our homes where we have everything from cats to small children to delivery people who need our undivided attention the minute we hit join meeting. So that is one of the reasons we do that. And it also just helps me to make sure that I cover everything that I want, and just to remind me of what we need to do and chat about tonight. Okay, so I am very excited to have everyone here, and without further ado, I'm going to get started. It is 7 minutes past, so our time is good. If there is, so obviously the chat is quite big and we're quite busy. We're just over 100 people. So if I don't see your question in the chat, please, please, please use the raise hand button. I love answering your questions and I want to hear all of them. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to write a good book. You will know that we have 2 sessions. Tonight is called How to Start Your Book, and How to End Your Book is tomorrow. It's 9 p.m. my time, whatever time it is in your world. Tomorrow, it'll be the exact same time as you are joining tonight or today. Okay. The first question I want to answer is, what is deadlines for writers? In short, it is the answer to your procrastination woes. We believe a deadline is the fastest way to fill a blank page. We apply this philosophy to poetry, short stories, and novel writing. Today, we are talking about a novel writing challenge called 52 Scenes in 52 Weeks. The challenge with writing a novel today is that you have to be so much more than just a writer. Even if you want to publish traditionally, you have to be a writer and editor, a book formatter, marketer, seller, IT expert, newsletter wizard, and a TikTok dancer. It can all get overwhelming pretty quickly. Okay. So Deadlines for Writers is our site that we work from, and we have lots of fun. We have monthly challenges, weekly challenges, and daily challenges. So here at Deadlines for Writers, we break big things down into smaller, manageable parts. Our goal is to get our books out into the world. We want to see our titles on the shelves, but we have to do some work first. Publication is the icing on the cake. Before we get to the icing, though, we need to bake the cake. We want to bake the best possible cake. And to do that, we need to find a reliable recipe, gather the best ingredients, and then we need to do the work. So 52 Scenes is the recipe. The feedback, weekly writing sessions, and monthly craft sessions are how you get the best ingredients, and the deadlines are what help you to do the work. So my one thing that I want you to keep in mind is I don't want you to get distracted by the icing that you forget to bake a good cake. I firmly believe that the best way to get published is to forget about getting published. I want you to focus on your craft, focus on your story, and that is how you get your book on the shelf. A sassy query letter might get you noticed, a flashy cover might get you a second look, but that all falls flat if your book does not deliver. So how do we write a good book? The world makes it seem so easy. So we've all heard these overnight success stories, the instant bestsellers, the debut hits that seem to come out of nowhere. Well, we know better. We know that the writers spent hours and hours agonizing over characters, rewriting sentences, and expanding their worlds. They've written and rewritten those books over months and years. They all started somewhere, and they all started where you have to start as well. They started with a blank page. Now, if you haven't met me, my name is Mia. I am a creative writing coach. I have taught, coaxed, and encouraged writers for over 14 years. And most importantly, I've been a writer my whole life. Like you, I struggle with procrastination, self-doubt, and finding the time to write. I realized if I wanted to achieve my goals, I needed help. I also needed to think differently about the writing process. So I've been teaching creative writing for a long time. I started out in a formal classroom. I loved teaching face-to-face. I loved the course. It was a great curriculum, but inevitably that class would be over. We would reach the end of the sessions and the writer would be sent out into the world to fend for themselves. And it's hard doing it on your own. That's why I created Deadlines for Writers. I wanted to help writers beyond the theory. I wanted to help them reach their goals. I wanted to help them increase their word counts and finish their books. I didn't just want to set them on the path. I wanted to walk with them. I wanted to share the load. I created the 52 Scenes Challenge because I learned that writers need ongoing, long-term support that doesn't cost a fortune and doesn't take up all their time. In short, I created the system I needed when I was a beginner. I was you, and this is what you need to write a book. The session is about 60 to 90 minutes long. After the class, which is the final one we do tomorrow, I will make you an offer to join the 52 Scenes Novel Writing Program. I hope you'll stay tuned for amazing practical session chock full of writing theory and advice that will help you write your book. I will explain how the challenge works, how we apply the theory of writing during the challenge, and how it will help you finish your story. And I will tell you about the amazing bonuses and stay to the end discount codes for writers who want to join. So let's get started. My first question, writer, is, are you interested in writing a book? You can put your answer in the chat for me. Are you interested in writing a book? Yes, and yes, I am. Yes, most definitely. Yes, yes. Hell yeah. Yes, yes, very much. Yes, absolutely. Yes, great. Always have ideas popping. Certainly great. Yes. Okay. I love this. So it's all the right answer because assuming that you're here, I'm assuming yes because you're here. I'm going to ask you another question. Are you committed to writing a book? Yes, good. Yes. I write every day. Great. Definitely committed. Yes, 100%. Not yet. Writing short stories and essays. Great. It's really good if you know what you want to do. I got a world, now I need a story. Fantastic. Absolutely. My 2025 goal to commit. Great. Okay. Now, what is the question or the difference between being interested and being committed? The thing is, if you're interested in something, you'll do it when you feel like it. If you are committed to something, you will do it even when you don't feel like it. I need you to be committed. There are going to be days and weeks when you don't feel like writing. There will be days and weeks when you aren't inspired. And that is why we don't finish books. We are interested. It's a nice idea, but we don't always realize how much work it actually entails and that it is real work. So I need you to be committed. Those days when you don't feel like it, that's when I need you to do it anyway. That is what being a writer means. It means you write. It means you don't wait for the muse. It means you don't give up when it is easy. So I'm going to ask you again, are you committed to writing a book? Okay. I hope the answer is yes. You may be a little apprehensive. It can feel overwhelming, but let's quickly try another exercise. Great. I'm loving all of these answers. It's fantastic. Okay. So remember I said at Deadlines for Writers, one of the apprehensive ones, Jonathan, it's a big undertaking. We have to kind of go, oh, what am I doing? So remember when I said on Deadlines for Writers, we break things down into manageable parts. So I want you to write down the following for me. My name is, and I'm a writer. Then I want you to write, in 2025, I will write. Can you complete that for me? I'm committed, wondering what I'm committing to. Good question. You're reading the fine print, Anthony. All will be revealed. Okay, so please Yeah, Kath, editing and grammar, that's second draft stuff. We don't worry about that in our first draft. So my name is, and I'm a writer. My name is Eric, and I'm a writer, and I'll commit to write and write and write and write some more. Great. Chandra, next draft of my novel. Etya, second or third book. Great. A new middle grade novel. Awesome. Okay. Now, these are all great. Okay. But these are the big goals. Okay. This is what we're working towards. I'm interested in how you're going to get there. So if you are this writing a novel, finishing a middle grade story, that's the destination. Now I quickly want us to take a step back, and we are going to look at how we're going to get to that destination, because we're not just going to wake up today and decide, this seems nice, and go off and do it. We need to break it down into a plan. So this is what mine looks like. I break it down into the smallest manageable part, okay, of that goal. Now, the goal of writing a novel, I like doing the math. Math is not my talent, but this is what I work with. So let's say we want to write a novel of 80,000 words. That's big. It's a big step. And I'm not going to write 80,000 words by just going, let's see how it goes. I have to make a plan. So I break it down and I make it as specific as possible. With 52 scenes, I'm going to use the math because it's already been done. We write our novels by completing one scene per week. So that scene is about 1,300 to 1,600 words a week. So my name is Mia. I'm a writer. In 2025, I will write one scene per week. Can you see how I've taken the really big goal and I've broken it down into 52 smaller steps that are going to help me achieve the goal? Great. Emma, 500 words per day. Awesome. Nicola, I will write every day. What I would like, Nicola, can you add a number to that? So I will write every day for 30 minutes, or I will write every day until I have written 250 words. Okay. Make it a concrete, measurable goal. Because I can write every day, and by writing, sitting down and typing a few sentences, I want to know what I'm going to do. I'm going to set a timer for 7 minutes, and I'm going to write until that timer goes off. Make it as specific as possible. So, if you're anything like me, I'm a master negotiator, especially when it gets to negotiating with myself. Then, oh no, I'm not going to write today, but tomorrow I'll write twice as much. And then if I skip that day, I'll write 3 times as much on Wednesday. So that's why I need to, great, Nicola, I'll write for 30 minutes every day. Awesome. Amanda, 30 minutes every day. Brilliant. Okay. If you are not an everyday writer, I'm not an everyday writer. I like to block my time. So I also would say that I'm going to write on Wednesday or Monday and Wednesday, and I'm going to write for 2 hours on those 2 days. And those are non-negotiables. But can you see how specific I'm being with my plan? I have a time, and I have how many times I'm going to do it, and I'm going to have how much I'm going to do when I'm doing it. So there is no room for negotiation. It's a little bit like, I'll go to the gym every day, and then I go to the gym and I buy a smoothie, and I kind of have one foot on the treadmill a little bit, and I go home. No, I will go to the gym every day, and I'll do 20 minutes on the treadmill at level XYZ. Okay. So that is how specific I want us to be when we set these goals. Okay. These are great. I'm loving everything coming in. Wow, Renee, 3,050 words a day. That's amazing. Okay. So keep going with that stuff. And I'm just very impressed with 3,000 words a day. But don't compare your word counts to other people's word counts. Okay. 250 words a day is going to get you to your novel. Okay. 250 words a day is 500, 1,000, 1,250 words a week, which is a scene a week. Okay. That is great. If you do a scene a week, you're going to have a novel at the end of the year. Okay. So don't compare your numbers to anyone else's numbers, and make sure that it suits your lifestyle. Okay. Some people have retired, and this is what they do full time. Other people still chasing around full-time jobs, rushing after kids, doing all of those things. Then we have to manage our output. Okay. So be as specific as possible. Now, this is all great. This is all great. The next step is What happens when we sit down and nothing happens? Okay. That is the next part of our challenge, is that we've made the time, we've made the place, and now we have to sit down and do the work. But then nothing comes because things get in our way. So usually, okay, so this was mine. My name is Mia. I'm a writer. I'll write 1,300 words of my novel every week. Okay. So now stuff is going to get in your way. Okay. You've set it up. You've set the goal. It's beautiful. You have the time and the place, and then nothing happens. So usually our challenges happen on two levels. We have emotional challenges and we have physical challenges. Okay. So I want you now to make two lists for me and then leave some space next to each one. But these two lists need to be physical things that are going to get in your way, and then the emotional things that get in your way. No one has to share any of this if you're not comfortable. Okay. But physical things that get in my way is I have a full-time job, which keeps me busy, which I need to do. I have kiddos who are still of school going age. I still do a lot of the driving and getting kids to and from school and to the different activities. I have a lot of other projects that I'm also working on. I tend to be multi-passionate when it comes to all my exciting things, and I have lots of other hobbies that I also do. Physical challenges, for example, my computer is acting up. I do think there's a new computer I have to figure out a way how I'm going to do that. These are all physical challenges that get in my way. It's things like I have to take care of someone, and it's not like I love my kids. I want to drive my kids around. This is what I do, but it is a realistic challenge that's going to get in my way. So I have to be very aware of what these physical challenges are. And I don't want to quit working. I like earning money. I like having my own money. Okay. I need to have money. So that's why I like working, but it is a challenge that gets in the way of my writing. Okay. And then the other column you're going to write is the emotional challenge. That's the self-doubt. That is my procrastination, because of course now I'm sitting down, I have the time, I have everything allocated, and then I have to color coordinate my pens because, why would I want to write when I can color coordinate my pens? I suddenly have this overwhelming urge to tidy up my filing system. Why do I procrastinate so much? Those are the things that I have to worry about. Emotional challenges are, I'm writing fantasy for the first time. Why on earth would I write fantasy? I don't think I'm good enough to write fantasy. Am I experienced enough to write fantasy? These are all these things that come up. So if you can, and it doesn't have to be, it can be a list of 20 things, but just for the sake of the exercise now, just give me 2 or 3 physical things that challenge your time. And then 1 or 2 emotional things that you think may get in the way of this. So MJ, you've posted in the group, so I'm going to share yours quickly. So physical things, caring for grandkiddos, yes. Running errands for the family, laundry, other household chores, making sure I go on a daily 3 to 5 mile walk every day, yes. It's such a weird thing. Yes, exercise is good for you, but it takes like an hour out of my day. And I already only have my mornings to work. So how do I find time for my writing plus my work and my exercise and the kids and all of this? Okay. So lots of things. Yes, travel is a huge challenge. If you are in a different place every week, it's very, very difficult. So what we do with things like this, we have to find ways to write with all of these things still happening, because none of these things are going to go away. Okay. The emotional things, those are a little bit more challenging to deal with. The self-doubt, the difficult things, mental block after all the homework. Lynn, do you know what I did with that? I used to write at the end of my day. I would save my creative work as a reward. And then by the time I got there, 8, 9 p.m., I was exhausted. And I had nothing left for my own creative work. So what I started doing was I flipped my day around. And I gave myself 15 to 20 minutes in the morning to do my creative work. And when that was done, I closed the notebook and I started my work. And then I actually got my writing done and I got my work done, but I kind of had my fresh brain for my creative work, if that makes sense. Full-time job, new house, aging parents, all legit, yes. Emotional, no one will read my work. And if they do, they won't like it. Renee, I think you've struck a chord there. We definitely feel like that. Tapped out by the world at large. That is so true, Rebecca. Getting 2 or 3 point feeling unmotivated. We're getting to the 2/3 point feeling unmotivated. This is common for me in projects. Rebecca, great. Yes. That is one of the reasons I like writing in a group environment like this, where we have accountability, where we have people who help us and work through it. Okay, so let's quickly check. So physical things. I'm just going to think about a few of these things that I've seen here. Sharon, other hobbies as well. I also have lots of other things that I want to do. So let's say physical work, or even just your day job, 9 to 5 stuff. What I do with my creative work is I'm rather strict about my blocking up my time. So we have a deadline on a Wednesday. So I would usually on a Monday have 2 hours blocked out somewhere during my day. So my day is more flexible. I can arrange my work and do what I want. In 52 Scenes, we have a Sunday writing session and a Tuesday writing session, which already gives you 2 hours. And most writers finish their work in that 2 hours. So what I'm trying to say here is every time you have a physical challenge or a thing that comes up for you, what can you do about it? Because that is our next step. I think most of us know what the solution is already. Okay. Like, for example, I am drained and unmotivated is most of the time because we leave our creative work for last. So try putting it first. Our procrastination is like, I've watched 3 hours of Netflix when I should be writing. Set a timer on your Netflix. Say after you've written for 20 minutes, you get to watch 1 episode. Then you have to write for another 20 minutes, and then you get to watch an episode. Find solutions for these things where you can still have all of these things. Planning a wedding, Tess, that's awesome. Okay. And I want you to have fun with your wedding, and it's lovely. But just like I think you have to find a time to plan the wedding, you have to make time for your writing. And it's something like a wedding is a big thing that will come up. And then when it's finished, you'll find you have more time. So reduce some of, maybe in the beginning while you're running up to the wedding, don't stop writing, but reduce your output in your writing a little bit, because when you're finished with it again, you can increase the writing. This is where we have to learn, is reducing the amount that I write better than not writing at all. Yes, Fran. If you are feeling overwhelmed, if it's too much, sometimes life just gets busy. Someone mentioned aging parents. If you are taking care of your folks and they've got doctor's appointments coming up, and this is a busier thing, this week you're going to write less, and there's nothing wrong with that. You may usually, if you have 3 sessions of writing, say, if I get in 1 good session, that's great. And then the next week you'll do that again. I sit with my calendar on a Sunday, and then I usually have, this is what this one looks like. I've got a big double page diary like this. And that is where I put in all the things where I have to, kids have to be here. This one has to be here. And then when I have everything in my calendar, that is when I can decide when my writing happens. So my routine does change. It's not as flexible as other people. Some people, if you've got, you have to be at the office at this time, you wake up at this time, and, it's much more set. Mine is much more flexible. But the discipline of sitting down on a Sunday and planning for all of these things, because these physical challenges aren't going to go away. We have to learn to write around them, and we have to plan to write around them. Okay. The emotional challenges. The only way to get your critic to shut up, because in the end, it's all the critic. Okay. Feeling unmotivated because it's your critic telling you it's not good enough. It's never going to be great. Why are you even bothering? And procrastination. I need to rather do this. That's also just a form of fear. It's all the critic. How you overcome those emotional challenges is you keep your promise to yourself. If you said, I'm going to write 250 words 3 times a week, and you do that, every time you show up for those 250 words, you're giving the critic proof that you are doing this. Every time you share your work and you receive feedback, you're giving your critic proof that you can do this, that you are good enough, that you're learning, that you're getting better. Because that is the only way you can do it. When you post your scenes on the site, you will see under your profile, you have a whole list of all your scenes. You build a body of work. And every time that critic goes, you're never going to do it. You can say, but look, I am doing it. It's all there. That's what I'm doing. That is how we overcome these challenges. Kathy says, writing while you're waiting to pick up your kids. Kathy, for the longest time, I had that's why I always have a very small computer, and it's in my car, and I usually have 20 minutes, 15 minutes where I have to wait for kids for something. Sometimes it's longer. I write in my car. That is how we have to get our words down on the page. It is not going to be easy, but it is infinitely doable. Voice dictate scenes while I'm walking my dog. Annalise, great. These are all solutions to the challenges that we face. And you know what those solutions are, but we have to acknowledge them. So now the thing about these excuses or challenges that we have is that they're real. I love my kids. I like my job. I especially like my salary, but they're going to get in the way sometimes. The emotional challenges. The critic is loud. He is a stand-up comedian, and you're the person in the audience he has chosen to pick on. So every one of these has a solution, and we'll be dealing with all of them during the year. But the first step is acknowledging them. Once we acknowledge them, we can make a plan to overcome them. So yes, you need a plan. It is not going to solve itself. Your boss isn't suddenly going to give you 2 hours off to write your book. Okay. This is the difference between the interest and the commitment. That is what we have to figure out. Okay. Sarah, yes, share my intentions, get support from the people around me. If you have small kiddos and, it's very hard, they want you, they're talking, they need this. What can you do to say, listen, I need 20 minutes, mom, if you can ask, mommy needs 20 minutes. Give them if you finish this picture, we can start again. Or, usually a thing for me was, before I sat down to write when my kiddos were small, to make sure everyone had a snack and a juice, because then I know they're not hungry and thirsty, because some other reason when you're sitting down, everyone's hungry and thirsty. So I would feed everyone. I would make sure they had their water, if they had a game they wanted to play or a puzzle they wanted to build, or if it was their time for screen time that week, then I would say, okay, this is your chance and this is my chance. You do this, I do this, we see each other again in 20 minutes. You can do it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We kind of have this impression where you have to write for 3 hours a day, or you have to write the entire day. If you give me the whole day to write, I'm still going to only do 350 words, because that's just how I work. So I've learned that the less time I give myself, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm way more productive in those times, and I can write in small bits. If you have the whole day to write, by all means, enjoy it. But it is just difficult when when all of these things intrude, and to find your time. But it is doable. Sorry, I'm reading the chat and talking to you. Yeah, I have to deal with a friend. The first of the month, I make a goal. Great. You send it $20. Okay. No, good stuff. Whatever works for you, just find a way to make that commitment. So that's what's nice with 52 Scenes, is we write together in a group. We have about 60 writers writing at the moment, and you read each other's work. So they're your alpha readers, and they are the people who are waiting for your scene. So usually, like on a Tuesday, like, oh, I don't have a scene. I don't know what to do. What's going to go on? And then I'm like, oh, but my readers are waiting for my scene. They're going to want to see something. And then that is just that excellent motivator that just helps you to put the words on the page. Okay, is not doing it alone. Find your community. Yeah, Tess, I'm totally taking that one. Kids, let me write for an hour, then we can clean the house together. I love that. You'll definitely have more time. Okay. So good stuff, but we have to make a plan. That is what my very long explanation is about. This is not going to solve itself. Okay. So you can either make a plan, or you can choose to give into these excuses and give up and put off your dream for another year. You can choose to listen to the critic, or you can use your job and your life as an excuse again and make it easier for the rest of us. Or you can choose to overcome these and make your dream come true. We use 52 Scenes to overcome self-doubt, stop procrastination, and to stick to one idea. So the format of this class that we're going to do now, I call it the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to talk about the one goal that starts it all. We're going to talk about the 2 types of conflict. We are going to talk about the 3-act structure, the 4 core characters, and the 5 major scenes. So tonight we do 1, 2, and 3, and tomorrow we're going to do 4 and 5. So here we go. I'm also going to discuss the system that has helped over 100 writers start and finish their books. It is a process that helped them to get from the blank page all the way to the end. Mind over manuscript, the PDF method, which stands for prompts, deadlines, and feedback, and planning is how we do all of this. Okay. Plus the writing theory, plus the community and accountability. Okay. Kathy says, I'm so afraid to have others read because I've not received encouragement, but lots of criticism. That's where I'm worried about grammar and other things. Kathy, there are other options that you can do during the challenge. There's a private post and there's a no comments function, but I'll explain those as we come along. You need to, so what we also do I always encourage you when you put your work out for feedback is be very, very specific about the kind of feedback you want. So I don't know where you've been sharing your work, but what I would do is I would be very specific about, I'm fully aware of the fact that this needs to be edited, and it will be, but this is a rough draft, and I was just looking for your thoughts. So if you could please refrain from commenting on grammar and spelling and typos. I know for me on short stories, some months, the fact that I just got the story done was the reward. It wasn't proofread, the typos were horrendous, there were inconsistencies, but the thing was just to get the story done. And then I would usually say, hey, hands off, I know it's a mess, but it's done. That's all I need it to be. In your first draft anyway, we're not looking at grammar and spelling and typos. That is very much second draft stuff. There are very good proofreading and spell checking things which can help. I do say you can, by all means, go take a look and use those. The spell checkers have come quite far, but we'll talk about tools as well if we have questions later. Helena asks, do you think writing 500 words in an hour is reasonable? If you do 500 words with ease, yes, by all means, go for it. How many words an hour you do is a muscle that you'll start practicing. If you regularly show up for 60 minutes and you set the timer and you write without stopping, then what you do is you'll start writing faster and faster, and it starts coming easier and easier. In the beginning, you're still waiting for the muse and you're relying on that inspiration. What we do with Deadlines for Writers, one of the best advantages of it is that you learn to write on demand. You have a deadline on a Wednesday. The deadline doesn't care how you're feeling, what you're doing. In our writing sessions, there's a 60-minute clock on the screen. The clock isn't waiting for you to become inspired. That clock is ticking and you have to write. So that's what you'll start doing with a regular writing session is you'll start on 350 words, then make it 450, then make 600 words. So if I were you, Helena, I would start, see how much you do get in an hour, and then slowly start building up from that. 500, 550, 600, 650. But don't get too caught up in the word count, because sometimes if a scene is harder and emotional and a bigger scene, it may take you longer. And then we don't want to put too much pressure on it to chase a word count. It's just a nice parameter to have to work towards, to say, I have to do those many words a day. But then, of course, some scenes are easy and fun and quick, and you'll do 750 words. We just always have to keep that in mind as well. Okay. Okay. A few things to keep in mind. I've been doing this for 14 years. I have helped hundreds of writers, and I'd really like to help you too. I've done all of these challenges. I know it's possible. If you write 3,000 words a day, we will slow you down. If you don't like deadlines, this most likely isn't for you. If you want to find time to write between kids, work, family, and the craziness of life, this is for you. Don't worry if you're not a plotter. Very few of us are. If you are a plotter, we'll see you on Wednesday with your first scene. But given that you're still here, I'm assuming you really want to do this. So here are your options for writing a book. The first thing is you don't have to do anything. Okay, you can just decide to be done. If you made that list of physical and emotional challenges and it was completely overwhelming and you realize this is not the year, then by all means, no judgment. Okay. Sometimes we also need to take a break. I've spoken to some writers. I mean, they've been writing diligently on 2 novels for the last 3 years and they're tired. Then you're allowed to take a break. We have to learn to rest and not quit. So it may just be time for a rest, and then we do that. Okay, so there's absolutely no judgment. If you're planning a banner year at work and you know you got the promotion and you've got this huge event you have to plan, you're going to have to scale down your work a little, your writing a little bit too, so that you can do justice to the work you're doing. When you've got the work under control again and the new stuff, then we can increase the word count again. Okay, so we really have to understand that it's not this absolute consistent thing that just keeps going. We build the muscle, we develop, but we have to be flexible in that plan as well. So the second thing you can do is you can, of course, I want to write a book on your goal list again. All you have to do is cross out 2024, just like you crossed out 2023 and slap 2025 on there. Okay. You can try a very fast program. We have 30-day programs. There are 6 or 8 week programs. You can write a book in 90 or 100 days. Stephen King says 3 months. He has lots of experience and a wife who does the laundry and the dishes and take care of the kids and all of those lovely things. So that'll definitely make it easier for you. But also, we like to slow down things. I like writing over a year as opposed to writing in 100 days, because I rarely have 100 pure days that I can dedicate to a project. So like I said, I write and I do everything else. I can't take a sabbatical and put everything on hold for 3 months to dedicate to that. So that is why we take a long time to write, or longer time to write, and we fit it in with everything else. You can try another course instead of signing up for a writing challenge. What we tend to do is this becomes another form of procrastination, and you may recognize yourself, because I know I do that. I call it the course carousel. Every time I go, oh no, I need to do this course first. I need to do this course first. I need to do this course first. And I keep going round and round with these courses, but I'm never getting to any of the writing. And the courses are good. You do learn from them, but at some point we have to put that into practice. Okay. You can try one of those very expensive writing programs that will promise you publication. It's published in under a year and it's going to be brilliant and you're going to write the bestseller and it's fantastic. If you can write a bestseller and have it published in under a year, you don't need the company. Okay. If you are that good and your book is going to be that great, by all means, go ahead and do it. You don't need to pay a company a large amount of money for that. The only people who can promise you publication are the publishers. Okay, so just always be very aware of that. Another thing you can do is you can ask AI to write your book for you. That is the day and age we're living into. I don't want to do that. I want to write my own stories because that's what I love doing and that's why I'm here. I'm hoping you feel the same. Or you can decide to do the work. You can make a promise to show up to the page and write your book. And I'm hoping that is what you're going to do. Yeah, and at least the course carousel is fun. But at some point, we have to stop and get off and start writing our books. So before we start, please get something to make notes with. On the side of the page, I want you to write the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Leave enough space to make notes. And we're going to start our way with 1 and work our way up. For the sake of this class, I'm keeping this as basic and as simple as possible. There are many ways to do this and it is very nuanced. The options are endless, but I'm trying to keep to the time frame. Some writers prefer more plot points or beats. I prefer fewer, but it all works within this system. Okay. So the process looks something like this. So we're here tonight with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 page. That is what we're going to work with. We translate it to a document called the first draft checklist. When you receive the replay email, you will receive a copy of this first draft checklist. The first draft checklist is the skeleton of my story. It's kind of like the map. So I know I want to go on a road trip and I'm starting in this city and I want to end up in this city. And then I've got a rough route planned how I'm going to get there. That is what the first draft checklist does for you. So you'll receive that as well. The next document is one of my favorites. It is a table that we use. This is all in the workbook for 52 scenes. So those of you who have signed up, you will find this in the workbook and you can print it out as many times as you want. So this document, especially this table, really helped me to plan my story, to say that, because you have some scene, I'm not a plotter, which is a challenge for me. So I had seen ideas and I knew I wanted this to happen to this character, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. Then I could pencil in the scene idea for there. And then I'd realize, oh, no, wait, but if he dies here, it's too soon. I need him to die later because he has to uncover this first. Then I could move it around again. So this was a really nice document to use to know how much story I needed, or if I needed things to happen sooner or not. And then the page at the back is my Scrivener, where I could see my scenes starting to build up, which was really nice. And then, of course, we get all the way to the end. So that is some of the process that we use. We start with the 5 plot points. We move to fleshing out our scenes. So 5 plot points are only 5 scenes. We need up to 50 to 60 scenes. And then we start writing them until we get to the end. So the first thing when we write a story is we need to differentiate between what plotting is and what plotting isn't. Okay. So for the longest time, we have been told that plotting is the only way to write a book. We have to know everything before we start. And that's never worked for me. Okay. It has just made me feel like one big failure. I had to spend a lot of time figuring out what plotting meant for me. The strangest thing is, the more experienced I get with writing my books, the easier the plotting becomes, because I learn how to do it. But in the beginning, when I was starting on my journey, I didn't know how to do it. And then I kind of thought, I can't be a writer because I can't plot. And if I am not a plotter, there's no way I'll ever get to the end of the book. But I found ways around that. So I know some, but not all of my plot. I write, so I'll start off by penciling, and I just see where it takes me. And this usually gets me a few thousand words. And then I realize, ooh, I'm writing myself into a corner, and then I'll stop. Then I'll reevaluate what I have, and then I'll start fiddling and figuring out what I need to do going forward. And I'll plot the next little section or plan the next little section, and then I'll write again and see where it takes me until that gets to a point again where I stop. Then I'll reevaluate what I have again, and then I'll go forward again. So I write, I read, I repeat, I write, I read, repeat. Okay. That is how I get all the way to the end of my stories. I usually know how my story starts. I know a bit of the beginning, and I have an inkling of how it ends. The rest comes as much a surprise to me as it does to everyone else. Okay. Chandra, you raised a hand. Let me just allow you to talk. I have to grant you permission to speak. It sounds very interesting. You need to unmute, Chandra. Yeah.
I think I did. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was just, the whole idea of your program, the 52 scenes, and like I'm kind of working on this really rough draft, but I tried to break it down and figuring out how many scenes, and 52 is like in the middle of the action. It's not the whole novel. It doesn't seem like it's very much, but maybe I don't understand what you're meaning by scene. Can you explain a little bit what is?
We have a whole class which deals with scene structure, so that you'll know exactly what it entails. But all we need to post is roughly 1,300 to 1,600 words a week. Okay, that gets you to a novel of 80,000 words, which is what most beginner author genre fiction would be. What genre are you writing in, Chandra?
I think it's kind of like suspense, woman stuff, or it's kind of hard to define, but I suppose
it's most likely
ends up being quite suspenseful.
Yeah, cool. But then you're going to aim for anywhere between 80 to about 90,000, 100,000 at most, and what you fit in with 52 scenes.
Well, okay. So I've got like less than that words, so I need to, be sure that I get enough words. But like I say, I'm already over with the scenes. I mean,
so remember, some writers have lots of short scenes, and that sounds like what you have. So you tend to have lots of short scenes. I have lots of short scenes. So my scene count in the end came up to, I think, about 76 scenes.
Okay, but so that's okay.
Some of them are longer. It's perfect. Yeah. Some writers, James Patterson, lots of short scenes. So he may have 100 scenes. Janet, slower writer, bigger scenes. So she may have 45 scenes, but we roughly all end up with the same word count. So
and is it usually going to be, sorry to interrupt again, but what if it's like mixed? Some scenes are quite short and some are long. Is that all right?
Great. That's exactly what you want. You don't want
Okay.
uniform scene lengths, because then your book's going to, it's going to be like a stuck record. It's going to go and go and
Okay.
go.
Okay.
You
So
want
for purposes of your class or this 52 scenes and 52 weeks idea, to make that work for somebody who's got the varying length of scenes, like you can't see me, but I'm waving my arms around, right?
That's
Would there be like if you're dealing with short scenes, then would you do two or
Mm-hmm.
yeah?
You'll post
Okay.
as many scenes as your word count needs. So you'll post, so even if it's 3 short scenes for 1 week, that's great.
Okay.
You have a very long scene, you'll go to be continued, and you'll carry on with your scene next week.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much for that. I was just wondering how this was going to work.
The
Okay.
word
Thank you.
count, yeah, the word count, it's a very important question, Chandra. So what the word count helps us to do is you're either an underwriter or an overwriter. So underwriters, so if you're saying especially that you don't have enough words yet, okay, you sound like you're an underwriter. I can finish my whole novel in 45,000 words, which is not enough. But I know what I leave out. I, for example, love dialogue. So when my scenes start, they're almost pure dialogue. I was joking the other day and said my scenes look like poems. That's how much dialogue I have and how little other stuff I have. So I've learned what I leave out. I have my characters don't have bodies. There are these mouths floating in the scene. They don't have bodies. They don't have thoughts. They don't have setting interaction. I don't have any description. I don't have any context. So those are all things. So when I start, just have pure dialogue. And I've learned what I need to go add in. If you are an overwriter, for example, you will learn where you tend to add the extra meat in your scenes. So what you would do is you would write, let's say you'll write your 2,000 words. Then your job is to go and to figure out how you're going to whittle 400 words out of that. Because I can promise you it's easier to cut 400 words per scene than it is to cut 50,000 words out of a 250 or out of 150,000 word manuscript. So we cut a little bit every week and we add in a little bit every week, depending on if we overwrite or underwrite. Okay. So the word count helps us to either write enough or to not write too much, so that when you get to the end of your draft, you don't have one that's way too short or way too long. Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Peter, 200 words per page. Yeah, a page is roughly 250 to 300 words. It depends, double line spacing, how you've done it. But for publishing purposes, I know we work with roughly around 300 pages. Okay. Cool. So let's go. Okay. What plotting is important. So we really figure out what plotting means for us and what it needs to be. Okay. Then we have to differentiate between ideas versus plots. A story idea is not a plot. Plot involves conflict caused by a protagonist and an antagonist who have two opposing concrete story goals. It starts with an inciting moment, which results in a goal that causes a series of events. Okay. So you are going to have an idea for a story. So an idea would be a woman has to overcome an abusive situation and leave a relationship. That's the idea, but that's not the plot. The plot is, who are these people? Where do they live? What is their socioeconomic background? How long has this relationship been going on? Why is it so difficult for this person to leave this marriage or this relationship? Are there children involved? Are there no children involved? Is there manipulation? That's when you start moving into plot. So the idea is to relieve an abusive relationship. The plot comes in with who is it happening to? What are the circumstances around happening? And that is how we build out what we have to move into our plot. Okay, that is what's going to get us to the end of our story. So we have to know that ideas are not plots. Okay. The first thing that we're going to look at, which is number 1 on our list, okay, to move our story or our idea into plot, is we start our story with an inciting moment. This is an important scene. So what happens in the inciting moment? We need to meet our main character. This is usually in their everyday setting, current situation. They're doing their thing and something disrupts that day. So this disruption can also be an opportunity, and it results in the story goal. So think about it, your character's doing everyday things. Then something happens. Someone offers them a job. Someone, a house starts burning, or they're in a grocery store and they run into an old friend or an old foe. Whatever that thing is they're doing, something disrupts that day. That is how we start our story. And that usually results in a story goal. That goal is opposed by a character we call the antagonist. Now, we use the word antagonist, but your protagonist doesn't have to be good and your antagonist doesn't have to be evil. Okay. So they do not have to be evil, but they must either want the same thing as your character or want to stop the protagonist from achieving their goal. If the antagonist isn't physically present, the threat they or it poses must be established. So let's say we have a detective story and our detective is just having an average day, catching up with some paperwork, and then he's called out to a crime scene. Terrible crime scene, there's a body, and his goal automatically is to find the killer and to stop it from happening again. The antagonist isn't physically present in the scene because that is the goal of the story, is to find this person. But the threat they established, the victims they've left behind, that is the threat that they've established. That is enough to start your story. If it can be as much as, but what will they say? That is enough that you can that's enough to get your story going. Okay, sorry, I'm going to close the chat because I'm looking at what you're typing. So that is enough to get your story going, just to have that threat that they established on the page. So I have to know what is at stake from the beginning of the story. Okay, so that is number one I want you to write on your list. What is the goal? I will keep coming back to this goal. It influences the whole story. Now, this goal should preferably be concrete. It should be an action or task for your character to complete or perform. A rescue, something to discover or uncover. It can be big or small, and it can change, but we'll talk about that. To get you started, you just want them to do something. Okay, you need to put events in motion. Okay. Let's quickly look at some examples. In Hunger Games, Katniss's goal is to win. To do that, she must survive. In The Bourne Identity, his goal is to figure out who he is. To do that, he must follow the clues that lead him to Treadstone. In The Dig on Netflix, it's a movie, the goal is to find out what is buried on the property. In Sandman, Morpheus is imprisoned. He escapes and sets about reclaiming his realm. A concrete goal will make it easier for you. So Hunger Games starts with the reaping and when she volunteers to take her sister's place. That is the change in the scene. Bourne Identity, he wakes up, he's just been fished out of the ocean, they're taking bullets out of his back, and he wakes up and he has no clue who he is. That's the change in the scene. The Dig on Netflix, the owner of the property hires a person to dig up these mounds on the property to see what is buried in them. Where so the person is hired, it's a job opportunity. That's how the story starts. Morpheus escapes. He sets out about reclaiming his realm. And then we have a concrete goal, which will make it easier for you to achieve your story, to get through your story. Okay, because it automatically, remember what I said, we need to move from idea to plot. The pursuit of that goal is what gives you your plot events. Okay. So your exercise is, if you can jot this down, I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to do it. Who is your protagonist? What are they doing? Where are they doing? So the where is important. Okay. A job opportunity for a woman in 2025 looks different to a job opportunity for a woman in 1634. Okay, so where are they doing it? And then what is that change that happens in the scene? Remember, it can be a small event or a big event. Small event meaning it can be a rumor Okay, it's just that, there's a rumor and it can be dismissed by your protagonist. But every time it comes back and the rumor is bigger and there's more proof, it becomes harder for them to dismiss the rumor. Okay, so it can be big or small, but what changes in the scene? And then what is your character going to do about it? Okay, are they going to ignore it? Are they going to try and find a solution? Are they going to accept it? Are they going to fight it? What are they going to do? And then if you can, just give us a nod to the antagonist. Okay, if your protagonist is in the office bathroom and she hears that, the person that she's in a relationship with is rumored to have had an romantic incident with someone else in the office, she goes, no, man, he wouldn't. He's in a relationship with me. And then she hears it again and again and again until there's proof that she does. She has to react to it. Okay. Do we have any questions at this point? For number one, your inciting moment results in your story goal, which is number one on your list. Chandra, you just have to
Always
unmute.
me, yeah.
No,
Is
anytime.
it all to be in one scene, or would you actually, when you were writing this, get this information in a couple of scenes?
It depends on your story and the pace of your story. So some stories start like Tsunamis, and from the word go, it's very, very fast. If you have a slower paced story, you may spread this out over a scene or two. But today, in modern fiction, our stories do tend to start much faster. So I would want most of this information. I mean, I would almost tell you on page one, because that is how important your story is. But if you have a slower paced story, it's not going to make sense to try and squish everything into a half page. Okay. If you think
I was thinking chapter one, but all in one page. Wow.
Your inciting moment starts your story very, very quickly. When you start submitting to publishers, you're going to see they ask you for the first 10 pages. And that is where the bulk of the action, the world building, and everything has to come in, which is if we're working on about 300 words a page times 10 pages. Someone help me with the math.
Oh, that was just here.
It happens. You need to do it very quickly. Okay. But, I like it to be very, very soon in the first one or two scenes, and then you'll go on from there. Okay. But it really depends on this pace of your story. Okay. If you've got a slower story, you can take more time. I've got an action-filled fantasy story, so it tends to be faster then. Okay, but really pay attention. But most of the time we want to get our reader orientated as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And my reader is going to wander off.
My little plan here was to jump right in with quite an exciting moment, if not the inciting moment. And then that would tell us so much about the type of character, the protagonist and her character, and what her everyday life is. And then, a few scenes later, so a few pages at least later, coming into the actual moment of the inciting, what triggers the movement forward, I guess.
Yeah, just be careful because what I don't want you to do with the everyday goal and meeting the protagonist is start giving me a whole lot of backstory and how we got here and what's important. That tends to come later. So we start in action sooner, and then we start filling in the details. So to start your story, give me the bare minimum information I need to get the action going, and then you start weaving in more information. Okay. All right. Linda says, but meeting the antagonist, wouldn't that be a scene of its own? If we actually meet the antagonist, yes. But I just need to know what kind of threat has been established. So, for example, in the detective novel where we're tracing down the antagonist, we don't meet him at all. We just know that a threat was established. Okay. So it really depends on your story. If you have a story where they walk in and it is a corporate of a story and they're vying for the same promotion, you meet them both on the first page because you want the promotion and you want the promotion, and who's going to get it? You know, you have to do X, Y, and Z to do that. So that is how we establish that threat. So it really depends on what's happening in your story. So we need the threat to be established. Okay, so I don't want to take too long to answer all of these questions. So Etja, if we can do it quickly, because I do still have quite a bit that I want to talk about. Etja, there we go. And just to unmute yourself. Yes, hi.
Yeah. Hi. I just want to clarify something. All these questions that you put for us to answer, do you actually want us to create a little scene or just to answer the questions?
If you can answer them by now, go for it. But what this will be, if you just cover all of those boxes. So what this would do is when you've written your inciting moment, just go back, check, is the protagonist there? Do I know what they're doing? Is there clarity? Have I been clear about where they are? What's changed in the scene? Is there a change in the scene? And then I'll use it as a checklist to go back. Okay, but we're not going to write scenes right now, but as long as you know what those are, but that'll become your first inciting or your inciting moment.
Okay, because like, you know, well, I understand now what you're talking about. I could go back to any chapter of my book and manuscript, I should say, and just apply those questions to make sure that they are all answered.
Yeah, so this is specific to your inciting moment. You won't necessarily have all of these in a scene, but we have a scene checklist as well, which we talk about in the scene class, where we have, you know, what is happening in the scene. Have we got all of that? Okay, cool. All right. And then Isabel, if you quickly want to ask your question.
Thank you so much. Yes, I put it in the chat, but so I have a slower paced story. Right. And I was going to start in a moment where the inciting moment already happened. And he's kind of just in the thick of things as they have changed. His life has changed. And so can he very quickly in the first couple of pages, like remember how it all happened and why he's stuck where he is right there in that moment? Like the inciting moment already happened. Because it's not like action, you know? It's just
so, Isabel, it really depends on your story and how you've written it. So I think that's the hard thing about writing is you can literally do anything as long as you do it well.
Okay.
Yeah, if it works for your story, you go for it. And it depends on what genre it is and everything. Most of the time, we don't want to spend too much time in our characters' heads. We want them outside in the world with outside action and dialogue and all kinds of things, as opposed to having a stationary character who's doing a lot of thinking.
Got it.
Just keep that in mind. But if your story is slower paced, suits the story, by all means, have at it.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. All right, great. Okay, I'm going to come back to the chat again in a moment, but let's quickly see where we can move on, because the next point is going to clarify quite a thing for us that tends to get us stuck. So number 2 is conflict, because we have 2 types of conflict. So remember when I said, what is this called? Okay. Is your story. It is. Sorry, I'm just muting everyone quickly. Okay, so what is your story goal? Is it to pursue something tangible? You may have been tempted to say that the goal is for the character to find themselves or to gain confidence, or when I spoke about the antagonist, you thought, but my character is their own antagonist. Okay, now that is the crux of conflict in fiction. We have 2 kinds, and we need both to carry us all the way through 80,000 words. Okay, also, we often misunderstand what conflict is. It is not only fistfights and car chases. It is the arguments, the obstacles, and challenges our characters face. Conflict comes primarily from your antagonist, but also from the setting and the subplots, for example. Okay, so we have inner conflict and we have outer conflict. Okay, outer conflict is what comes literally from the outside. Think about bullets, laws changing, earthquakes, traffic jams, arguments, power failures, bankruptcy. Okay, inner conflict is the own worst enemy stuff. I can't do this. I don't think I'm good enough. I'm not enough. I'm scared. No one loves me. Your character is going to triumph over their inner conflict when they pursue the story goal or the concrete goal, and they face the challenges brought about by the outer conflict. Okay. If your character needs to become more confident, or if your character needs to learn how to ask for help, they're not going to do it by sitting on the couch going, I need to be more confident. How am I going to do it? They're going to become more confident by you putting them in situations where they are forced to take the lead. They can fail and they can fail until they finally have a smidgen of success. And the same with asking for help. They're going to keep failing because they refuse to ask for help until they learn the lesson that they can't do it on their own. And then that is where our we definitely need that, but that is the inner conflict. And they only triumph over the inner conflict because of the outer conflict. Now, just remember the outer conflict. If you are writing a family drama, you're not going to have bullets and car chases, but you are going to have secrets. You are going to have letters being uncovered or discovered. You are going to have rip-roaring fights at Thanksgiving. Okay. That is the conflict, the outer conflict in your story, which all really comes to your inner conflict. Okay, so that is how that's your character arc. That is why we're doing this, is we want our character to change and evolve. But they're not going to change and evolve by going, I'm going to change and evolve. They have to go through a series of actions that's going to make them change and evolve and force them to change. Okay. So number one is the story goal. The pursuit of the story goal is opposed by the antagonist, which causes our outer conflict. Our inner conflict is our character, their flaws, what's going to make it difficult for them. And that's what's going to help us to get through the story. Okay. It's not just a series of events that's going to happen in the plot. It is how it's going to be affected by that character. And two different characters are going to have two different reactions to a ticking bomb. Two different characters are going to have different reactions to a family screaming match. Okay, the one's going to start screaming and the other one's just going to start leaving. Okay, and then what is the result of that screaming match? Okay. Cool. So let's look at a character, for example, who wants to write a book. Their inner conflict is, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not good enough. My story is not good enough. There is writer's block. There is fear. And then their outer conflict is internet distractions, day jobs, the lack of time, their family who wants their attention, and of course, procrastination. Okay, inner conflict, outer conflict. And they're going to triumph over the inner conflict by dealing with the outer conflict. Okay, so what is mentally getting in the way of your character and what is literally getting in the way of your character? Okay. That is the next suggestion that I have for you before you embark on this fun journey of writing your book, is to write a list of external conflicts and internal conflicts. So some of it's going to be genre and setting related. So if you are writing an action novel, chances are there are going to be car chases, time bombs, bullets flying. If you're writing sci-fi, running out of oxygen is a reality. A spaceship breaking down is a reality. A alien invasion, a battery running low on a laser gun. Those are all external conflicts. Okay. What is the inner conflict? Is having to be alone and facing their demons in space and no one to distract them, you know, and they can only wallow in their guilt. So what are we going to do to keep them busy so that they can grow and change? Historical fiction, again, look at the events of that time, look at the laws, what's going to make it challenging for your character, and then look at how they're dealing with it in their internal world. If your heroine is a very feisty young lady in 1812, it is going to be challenging for her. There are going to be places she can't go. There are going to be things she can't do. And how does that affect the internal conflict? Does she rebel against it? Does she accept it? What is going to go on? That is who the character is. So this becomes a nice little exercise to start thinking of more scene ideas before you start writing. And then for those weeks when you go, I don't know what to do, I can't remember what I wanted to do next, or whatever, you can refer to these lists and it's going to help you. Okay. The inner conflict, of course, you have to know your character, which for me is always something I uncover and discover as I work through my story. But it's nice just to have a bit of a think about who they are before we start. Okay. Number 1 is our goal. Number 2 is the 2 types of conflict we need to tell our story. This brings us to number 3. I said I was going to keep it very simple, so we're sticking to a 3-act structure. We need a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I recommend, 3 acts, but I recommend dividing it into 4 quarters, okay? Now, the first quarter is the beginning. Quarters 2 and 3 is the middle of your book, or the middle of your book, and quarter 4 is the ending of your book. Okay, so Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, okay? For 52 scenes, we have specific plotting classes for each of these quarters. Okay, so the first class we're having on Sunday is the beginning class, where we look at scenes 1 to 13 and what you need to happen in scenes 1 to 13, and then we're going to write it. Then in March, we do plotting the middle, which is scenes 13 to 26. Then we know what to do in our second quarter of our story. Then in the middle of the middle, which is, we'll have the class somewhere in May, and then we'll write scenes 26 to 30, or 39, and then roughly what needs to happen at that point from the midpoint onwards. And then the end class deals with the final quarter of the story, Dark Night of the Soul, how to end the story, what does it need to do? Okay, so that is how we divide up these 4 quarters to create a 3-act structure. It looks something like this. This is also the document that you'll receive with the replays, so that you have your own version of it. But as you can see, I've got 4 colors here, each illustrating a different quarter. And the pink one is quarter 1. The purple and the tealy turquoise color is Act 2. Okay, so sorry, that pink one is Act 1. Then we have Act 2, which is the purple and the turquoise, and then the green is Act 3. Okay, so Act 2 is the longest and the hardest part. That is where most of us get stuck. Whoever said we get stuck about 2/3 into the story, it's because it's the middle. Okay, the middle is where writers are weighed and measured. And that is where we need the system of what's going to happen next, how are we going to do this to really help us get through the middle. I also like doing it in these quarters so that we don't overwhelm you with too much information and theory, because you should be writing scenes 1 to 13 and then we start worrying about scene 39. Okay, so that's why I really like concentrating on one section at a time until we get to the end. It doesn't mean we can't think about the others, but we're not getting too caught up in the rest of the theory. But each of these is divided by a very important scene, which we either call surprise 1, 2, and 3, or plot point 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now some plotting devices like Hero's Journey or StoryGrid has a plotting device, Freytag's Pyramid, Save the Cat has beats. Okay, they all have different parts. I prefer to have fewer markers to tell me what I have to do. I mean, Hero's Journey, you can use up to 16 or 12 of their points. I can't remember how many beats Save the Cat has. But I find that a bit prescriptive. I like to have more room to play and to see what happens. So that's why I just stick to these plot points. This is also a pacing device. And the pacing helps us to, you've all read these books where the beginning was great and then it plateaus and nothing happens and there's a little blip again at the end. That's not what we want. So we want to be able to move our story forward. We want a series of escalating events. Okay, but we're going to talk about that more towards the end. Okay, so your last little exercise for this evening is, if you can, and this is a big ask, okay, I can't do this before I start a story. I've roughly got the first quarter and I've got an inkling of the idea. Quarters 2 and 3, I'm as surprised as you are. So if you can summarize quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you have just got an idea for a story, I would say if you can do quarter 1 and just what you think quarter 4 is going to be. If it is a rewrite, you should be able to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, if you can. I'm going to stop there for this evening. Tomorrow we're going to do the 4 core characters, and then we're going to go on to more detail of these 5 scenes, okay, which is the plot points that you have to do in the beginning and the end and how they all go together. Okay, So Linda, I just think, so we aren't going to be plotting out the end scenes until we get there. What happens anyway, Linda, is that the story will start unfolding. And as you go along and you start getting these scene ideas, you'll start jotting them down. So then by the time we get to the plotting the end class, for example, you will have a list of what you think is going to happen if you work like that. And then we'll start going through it as a checklist of like, has this happened? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? I sometimes change things around a little bit in terms of like the character class, for example. I do the character class very late in the year. So I don't throw a whole bunch of theory at you from day one. We literally do a class a month. So you learn as you grow. Because I don't want you to sit with all of this theory that you're trying to force into a story. I want you to write the story and go, oh, this is how I'm going to apply it to my story. Our first class, for example, is the dialogue class because it's usually a fun class and it really makes a big difference to your writing. But the character class I like to do later because I'm not a plotter. So what I do is I like to put my story, my characters on the page first. I like to spend time with them. By the time I'm like 2/3 into my book, I can go, okay, I have a strong sense of who this character is. I don't like planning out my character in the beginning because then I find them very hard and cardboardish to work with. And I prefer them to be more organic and richer. That's something I just prefer doing. So that's why we've really pace the classes throughout the year. So it's not a ton of theory right at the beginning. This is overwhelming enough as it is. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can jump into the chat. Let's quickly take a look at, I'm just going to go from the bottom up. Is the process geared towards fiction only? Peter, what are you planning on writing? And which Peter am I talking to now? If you want to either just ask it in the question, and then you can answer it, or you can just raise your hand for me and I'll give you a chance to talk and you can tell me. But we do fiction and memoir, so that'll be creative nonfiction. Okay, raised hands with my participants. Okay, Peter, I've got you. Just let me give 2 seconds to Peter, do you still have your hand raised? I don't see, if you're comfortable with that, that's what we both have, if I've answered your question. Another question, did I understand that these meetings are recorded and can be extras later? Yes, MJ. So you're part of 52 Scenes. So what's going to happen is these recordings will go out. They're available for a few days and then they'll go down. And then they're saved under the education tab. And every time we have a class, like last night's orientation class, we'll put it under the education tab and you access it throughout the year whenever you want to. So you'll start seeing things like, oh, what did Mia say about this again? And then you want to go back and reference it. Then you can do that. There is something else also, which I'll talk about again tomorrow night. You'll see there's a mini plotting course, which are little bite-sized videos. So obviously this is quite a long class. When the recording goes up, it'll be almost an hour and a half, if not more. And then, it might be long to go, oh, what did Mia say about the friend character again, or about the third plot point? Then you'll just go into the bite-sized plotting, and those lessons are like 30 seconds to a minute. And then you can very quickly just see what I said about that again. Okay, so they all go live under the education tab. Okay, Peter, yeah, memoir, it's great. We have quite a few memoir writers. Of course, the emotional toll of memoir is quite a challenge. You just have to take very good care of yourself as you're doing the writing. Memoir also doesn't necessarily follow the linear path that we would with a novel. It's much more open and organic, and it's more, I think, heart-led as opposed to plot-led. We still want a concept and a theme to come through, but we work a lot harder on theme and illustrating the theme than we do on plot points and markers, but the theory overlaps a lot. Okay. Anya, you can totally do 52 scenes for a rewrite. A lot of writers bring an existing manuscript, like, something that they did and they've had forever and they want to brush it off and do it again. So yes, we do lots of rewrites. Yeah, some of the writers. So what we do as well is after your first year of 52 scenes, you get to come back. And then some writers either rewrite over 12 months or you rewrite over 6 months, and then we write from April to September, and we do 2 scenes a week, but it's a rewrite. Okay, so it is a process. You make friends on the site. It's peer review, so you read each other's work as alpha readers, and you make the greatest group of friends. And where's the character? Where's your scene? And they're your biggest fans. So it's really fun. So yes, a lot of people come for rewriting. You're totally welcome to do that. Linda says, I'm truly intrigued by the scene a week deadline approach. My only hesitation is the feedback. I don't like sharing a first draft, and I don't think feedback in single scenes in isolation is going to be helpful, and it could actually be unhelpful. Can we participate? Yes, you can, definitely. There is an option which is different. If you've done short stories with us, you'll know that you have a submission form. The 52 scene submission form has 2 extra buttons where you can choose no comments or private. Private means no one sees your scene. You can't even see your scene. It's just the discipline of the deadline that you want. Okay. The other option is that your scene is still public, so people can see your scene, but the comment block at the bottom is gone. So they can't comment on your scene. And it is up to you to decide which one you want to do. Some writers don't like the feedback. The feedback also, it's fantastic. It's really, really valuable. But what you need to do with, hey, Sharon, how cool to see you. Sharon is one of our veterans. So what we have with, I did my rewrite last year in over 6 months, but I didn't have at that point capacity to take on reading other stories. So I just posted with a deadline and no comment. Just so all that I needed was that. The feedback is very, very valuable, but Linda, especially if you're new and if it's a very first draft and you're not comfortable with that, by all means, then you don't have to go to that at all. Okay. It's really up to you to tailor it to suit you. Okay. Other people thrive off feedback. They want as much as they can. And then you'll see, I mean, it's this whole like posse of people reading each other's stories. It's actually quite cool. Okay. But that's your choice. And you have the setting to decide what you want. Okay. Lovely to see the memoirists. There is also one of our bonus classes is specifically geared towards memoir, and I usually get someone in to come chat to you guys again because she is amazing. Cool. Bye, Duke. Thank you so much. Yeah, Etja loves the feedback. So if you've been doing short stories for a while with us, you'll know it works on the same concept where you do, except you don't read 4, you only read 2. Okay, so that's cool. I just want to double check the chat. And Kathy, I do see your hand. I'm coming. I can see the value. Program is great. Thank you, Sharon. Also, Dana, memoir, awesome. Scene a week, that's fun. Rewrite you can do, we've answered that. Another question. Yes, the meetings are recorded. We've answered that. Geared towards nonfiction or creative fiction. You plot out, yeah, you plot as much as you want. So those of you who do plot, okay, you totally go ahead and plot. Okay, you don't have to wait for me to do anything. And we have some very hardcore plotters. There aren't a lot of them, but they are there, and they go ahead and they plan and plot and do whatever they want. And then when we attend the classes, it's kind of like a checklist to just double check that you've done everything that you wanted to do and put in there. Yes, Kathy, you can totally use one of your short stories. So I'm going to, Kathy, you have the floor. You can unmute and let me know what your question is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi.
Okay. Hi. I have a question. Okay, since I can use one of the stories, and it's my story that kind of interested me because I never even thought about it, but my 2 characters are in the 60s, and the one character's in the military and the other one's a teacher, but I don't even have a title for it, and I'm not sure how to summarize because I only have maybe a couple of stories, you know, the short story things written, and I'm not sure where the story's going to go. I'm kind of interested in exploring it because as a child, I saw all this stuff going on, but I'm trying to, it's coming out kind of, you know, like interested in what happened between, you know, like with PTSD and being at home in the 60s when you have a child and your husband's in the military and everybody's, you know, arguing over the war and stuff. So I'm not sure if if a summary would for all 4 quarters, I'm not sure if I'd have that.
Then you don't. I don't have any of that when I start. I start with an idea, and like you said, you've got the short story. A lot of our writers use one of their short stories and flesh it out in the challenge. It's just about understanding that you have to do the work and you have to do the brainstorming. So go and plot out those ideas, things that can happen, what comes up, and start planning ahead. So there's so many ways to approach it. Some of the writers, so there's a prompt as well that's published. The prompt for this week has already been published. The prompt is denial.
And I love that.
So go and write and see where denial takes you for an inciting moment. Okay. And it can be the government denying terrible things that they're doing in Vietnam. And that's the start of your story. And, you know, like this guy home with his PTSD going, but I was literally there and this happened, and they're saying it didn't. Okay. For example, I'm making stuff up. But you don't have to use the prompt, but the prompt is kind of a little bit where the magic lies. So if my scenes are a little bit meh, and then I'll look at the prompt and see what I can do to add some magic to them. Or when I'm stuck and I don't have a scene idea, I don't know what I want to do quite, then I will turn to the prompt and I'll see what the prompt can do. There are writers who don't do any planning or plotting. They wait for the prompt to be published, and whatever the prompt is that what they write is their next scene. There are writers who have their scenes plotted out and planned out, and they never look at the prompts. Okay. So the prompt's truly there. I mean, if you've done short stories, Kathy, you'll know, you'll see what the story does and where it takes you, and you lead. This is literally, if you just have an open heart and an open mind, that is a beautiful, beautiful way to approach the challenge, is follow your characters. Show up. If you show up to the page, your characters will show up to the page and they will not disappoint.
Okay. And then I'll be able to, like, if I have to research something, because maybe I don't know everything about what happened there, but it will work. Okay.
It works. Okay. It just does. I mean, like I said, I don't plot anything. My story that I wrote for 52 Scenes in 2021, in 2020, I literally thought I was not going to finish my own challenge. I thought I was going to drop out of short stories January 2020 because I didn't have a story. It was like 11 p.m. the night before the deadline, and I didn't have a story. And then I was turned off my light and I closed my eyes, and then I was like, oh crap. And there was this character, and she popped onto the page, and I wrote one short story a month for the duration of 2020. And then I thought it was finished. I was going to have a little cute little novella for that story. And then I realized I wanted to do 52 scenes. And then this character said, but you're not doing 52 scenes without me. And she came along, and that's how we went. Okay. So that's
I'm interested in finding out where my characters are going, because I don't know where they're going.
It'll be awesome. Yeah, no, just follow them and they'll do it. Okay.
Okay.
I'm quickly going to pop into the Q&A. Someone whose name I unfortunately don't know, but please let me know. Can the antagonist become a partner or helper to the MC? Great question. Tomorrow night, we're going to do the 4 core characters, and then I'm going to explain the different kinds of characters, and I will explain to you how they change. So your characters have to have a function. And this is where I don't want you to get too caught up in the antagonist and the protagonist, and this one has to be this. Because the minute you say antagonist, everyone thinks your antagonist must be evil. And sometimes your antagonist is only in opposition. It's like, you know, if your character wants to do something and someone wants to stop them, it could be a mother wanting to stop a child rushing into danger, but it's against everything the child wants. So the child wants to do X, Y, and Z, and the mother wants to stop them. In that little scenario, the mother is the antagonist and the child is the protagonist. But the mother wants to keep the child safe and the child rushes towards danger. Okay, so just think about how these roles change, and then the roles can change. So yes, we can definitely look at how they're going to. It's quite popular in like a romance genre to have enemies to lovers, where it's this antagonist and they're up against each other, and then they end up falling in love. So then the antagonist turned into the love interest. Okay, so it just depends on the kind of story you're telling. Okay. Value subgroup. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat. If there are any more questions, please raise your hand. Yeah, Echa, if you love feedback, some people do, other people don't. Some people say, don't tell anyone you're writing a book and surprise them with the end product. I know Janet Ivanovich always said she tells everyone she's writing, so then she has to finish. Also Peter, hi Peter. My only other fear is I've been working my project for years and I still don't know how it ends. My fear is that I'll get all the way through and it won't be able to think of an ending. Any thoughts? Linda, it's a first draft. Okay, so you have to get to the end to know what the ending is going to be. We often write and write and write, and we get all the way to the end, and then the ending we thought was going to be changes entirely. Okay. And only once you have the ending of your story do you actually know what the beginning needs to be. So I'm going to strongly encourage you, whatever you do, is get to the end of the book. Because once you have that ending, it informs everything that happened before that. So it's really something that you have to get all the way through. So whatever I say is finish it. And this is where the trust comes in. I promise you, if you get to the end of the story, you'll be able to finish it. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the ending, and the ending is actually much simpler than people make it out to be. Okay. But that's something I'm a little bit pedantic about. Okay. And this is not just pointed at you, Linda, this is everyone in general, but we have to learn to finish our stories. Okay. We can't get distracted by the shiny new idea. I think that's one of the nicest things that happen with 52 scenes, is that it keeps us on track, because when it gets hard, we've committed to finishing the story. Whereas other circumstances, the shiny new idea comes along, usually in March, and the shiny new idea is easy and it's beautiful and it's so exciting and it's so much better than this journey, until we get next 3 months and then we're in the same place with that story, and then there's another shiny new idea, and we never finish our books. So what happens is you end up all these quarter books or half books, and that not finishing becomes a habit. Always chasing a new idea becomes a habit. So this is really one of the things that 52 Scenes helps you with, is to stay on track with your story, to get all the way through your story to the end of it. Okay. Cool then. That's awesome. Hi, Steph, how awesome to see you. I'm so glad you're coming back for the second round. Bye, Leslie. Oh, awesome. That's very excited to see that. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Oh, cool, Peter. Yeah, go for 12 short stories and see where it leads you. Okay, 12 short stories has led to some of our lovely books. And Elise says, I'm a plotter, but I will often find a prompt or a tight timeline allows me to write towards something I hadn't found a way into before that moment. And Elise, absolutely. I always say the more restrictions I place on my creativity, the more it lets me be creative. And the harder I make it for myself, the more fun I get to have with my creativity. Oh, Di, they're all on our website. So Di has asked, what are these challenges you are referencing? If you go to deadlinesforwriters.com, you will see you can sign up for 12 short stories in 12 months, or 12 poems in 12 months, or 52 scenes in 52 weeks. Okay. They're all there. Kathy, can your character be conflicted about what he could do with his training, playing with the idea? Yes, conflicted characters are great. I'm not entirely sure what Kathy's comment was. Oh, hi, Renee. It was your question. So good. We answered. Deb, awesome. I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, Mariette. Questions tomorrow night. Awesome. Great advice. Okay, so Linda says, great advice about finishing what we start. Just looked at your website. Oh, thank you. So no, basically how it works, Linda has asked, we're already a week into the challenge. You have a week to write your scene. So the prompt was published on the 1st of January, and your first scene is due on the 8th of January. This is why this is the absolute last time we're doing this class for the year. And this today and tomorrow will be the last time that you have to sign up. Otherwise, you will be too late and you'll have to wait another year to join 52 scenes. Okay. So, what do you need to do to start is, well, you need to sign up for the challenge. Once you've signed up, you will have access to the levels that allow you to participate in the challenge, to submit and read and see the prompts. And you'll have access to the really cool workbook. And then on Wednesday, from my 8 a.m. to the next Thursday, 8 a.m., you have 24 hours to post your first scene. Okay, which is very exciting. Dana, I definitely know who the first and middle, how the first, I'm hung up on the end. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the end. Okay, Dana. And like I said, the end is actually much easier than we think it is. Okay. Linda, the monthly classes are live. Yeah. So you see me once a week, basically. So we have writing sessions on a Sunday and on a Tuesday. On a Sunday, it's a coaching session, which would kind of be like this. So we all check in. How's it going? What are you getting up to? I'm stuck. I'm not sure of this. How did this work again? We chat quickly. And then we set the timer for an hour and we write. Okay. On Tuesdays, we have something called the silent sessions, which is a new thing that we're starting. But on a Tuesday at the same times, we log into the Zoom meeting, no cameras, no microphones, just a clock ticking, and you write. So that's your 2-second sessions to do. And then once a month, we have the live classes. And yes, it's taught live. The recording goes up on the site afterwards, and you can access that again anytime. And yes, you can ask me any questions. So you see me weekly. So if you have a question that comes up, by all means ask. And then we have the monthly classes. Okay. And you know what they are, like about 3 months in advance, dates and everything, to make doubly sure that you can attend. Okay. I'm doing 12 Short Stories Challenge. Do you think that will help me with my novel if I keep to my characters and my story? Do you, Isabel, do you just want to do 12 short stories, or are you asking to do 52 scenes and 12 short stories? There are many writers who do both. So they do, 12 short stories only. Yes, Isabel, yeah, if that's what you want to do, you will write your scene. So it slows it down even more. So where we do 1 scene a week, you'll basically end up with 1 scene a month. If you do that. But it's really great to explore backstory, to figure out what's happening with your characters. It's really nice to have them on the page. Is there a screenplay challenge? Kadar, no, not at this stage. I mean, it would be fantastic to have a screenplay challenge as well. Some people, it's screenplays also, I don't know how you'd fit it into 52, but I mean, I suppose we can do the math. And if it's really something you want to try, you can give me a shout and we can see what we can do and we can work it into it. There is another side to the challenge, which we call the Write What You Please challenge, which might be, I've never thought about doing screenplays for that, but then you can write poems, flash fiction, whatever. So you can, I suppose, write what you please and then go for that. Okay. The sessions, Linda, are the same time as these classes. So this morning's class was my 11 a.m. and this class is my 9 p.m., which I'm not sure where you are, but it is 2 p.m. Eastern time, I'm assuming, for where you are. Then just see where it goes from there. Okay. If that works. Thank you. Cool. Is there a similar format, education resources, writing sessions for the 12 short story challenge? Or is the 12 SS just a meeting the deadline? 12 SS is primarily just meeting the deadline, Doris. And then we also do monthly classes there, but the topics vary greatly. Last year we had someone who does book cover design. We had someone who does an author website. Then I do craft classes for short stories, which is really fun. And then Doris, we did it this year in June, July, and I think it's going to be June, July again, or last year, June, July, it's going to be again. We do Short Story Festival, which is about 5 days of just short story craft and speakers, and it's really, really cool. And then we also have Short Story School, which is a more structured format of short story craft and education. So if you just keep an eye on the site, there is a tab on the website for freebies. Under freebies, you'll see the class schedule, and then you'll be able to see which classes are coming up in the next 6 or so months. There isn't anything yet because I'm not there yet. Okay, but as soon as I know what the classes will be, our first class for short stories will probably be in February. Okay. Is there a discount code? Yes, there is a discount code, Annalise, for joining tonight. And then if you want, just pop me an email and I'll send you the discount code if you want to join tonight. I'm actually only sending it out tomorrow night, but you'll see it when it goes out, and it is included in the replay email. Okay, then you can sign up with that. It's $100 discount on the price, so it's quite a nice discount. Okay. Edie says, if I submit my scene on Wednesday at 11 a.m., does that work, which is 9 p.m. your time? Yes. As long as it is, so my Wednesday, 8 a.m. to the next Thursday, 8 a.m. That's a 24-hour window to post, and 11 a.m. or 9 p.m. my time is perfect. Okay. If it's later than that, sometimes I'm just a little bit asleep and you have to wait, but I will post, I'll approve them as soon as we can. Okay, then they'll all go up on the site. Any more questions? Anyone want to share a story idea or bounce something that they're planning on writing? Any more questions about the challenge? I'd love to answer. No? All good? Okay. Let me just double check the Q&A box. Oh, is there a screen back challenge? Kadar just asked that, so we've covered that. Yeah. Any more questions or anything? Shall I set you free into your, what is today? Tuesday, Monday. Oh, goodness. Okay. Oh, thank you, Amanda. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. So we definitely don't need a list of, no, please don't have a list of 52 scenes. Linda, if you plot, yes, you can have that. But no, I definitely don't have 52 scenes ever. Maybe one day when I'm a grown up, but no, we literally go up. And I'm still in denial, Kathy. So it is just, yeah, we show up, we write our stories. It's a very, very soft, gentle process, okay? And show up and write your scene and see where it takes you. Trust yourself, trust your characters, trust your story, okay? It's really, really lovely, okay? Linda, I'm going to send the discount code. Okay, so this takes a moment. So this recording has to render or whatever, then I quickly just chop off the beginnings and the ends so we don't see the messy bits, and then I have to upload it to YouTube, and then it should go out to you. If it doesn't go out still tonight, it's 11 p.m. in my world, it'll go out first thing tomorrow morning, okay? And then you will see that. But please, I want to see you tomorrow night, okay? Hi, Salolo, how cool to see you. Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, Otta. I think I'll use one of the short stories I wrote. Oh, cool. Yeah, use it. That's great. Okay. I have a lot of stuff written, but it just isn't a yet. Okay, I have a lot of stuff written, but it just isn't a yet thoughts. Linda, I'm not sure. Oh, isn't a story yet. That's fine. Okay. Linda, we have to learn how to move our ideas into plot and into story. Okay. So that is why we're going to do craft again and again and again. Okay. This is not stuff that I can force into your brain in one night. This is what I was talking about. It's a long process, and writers need time and long-term support. That is why we're going to do this craft again, and we're going to look at the craft again and again. Okay. No, please don't apologize, Linda. It's while I'm reading the chat moves as well. So it's not necessarily only your stuff. Okay. Does the first scene submitted have to be the opening scene of the story? Helena, as long as your inciting moment happens somewhere in scene 1, 2, or 3, it should be fine. But obviously, if you've just decided to take this on and it's going to take you a moment, you can post anything. Sometimes we start a story with, if you want to do a prologue, you can start with a prologue. I'll talk about prologues again because, you know, sometimes it's hit and miss with a prologue. But just go and see what it leads to. So no, it doesn't have to be the inciting moment, but if it is, that's also great. Okay, as long as something happens and it's cool and it's exciting. I'm quickly going to see if I can just find, because of course I've saved it in 12 different places. If I can find that discount code for you guys, and I'll drop it in the chat. So no, as long as you just have a scene up, sometimes, you know, and don't put yourself under too much pressure, because you have to also remember that your inciting moment can change. I've just told you, once you have the ending, you know what you need to do in the beginning. So that's also going to change. So as long as you have a scene up, that's entirely fine. Oh, that's another thing that I have to mention, is you do not have to write in order. Okay. That is something that sometimes helps if you have a very difficult scene, or you're not sure what has to happen in the scene, but you have a crystal clear idea for another scene. That is where you can also write something out of order completely. So you can write a scene that comes much later in the story, but if you need to get a handle on what has to happen, that's going to really help you to, you know, just to progress with your story. I don't want you to not post because you didn't know what to write. Rather write a scene that comes naturally, that you can figure out what you want to do. If that makes sense, I hope. Okay, so no, that's the wrong thing. Go away. I'm going to read the chat now. I'm just quickly trying to find a link for you guys. You're ahead of me tonight. So that is the link that I've just shared. There we go. And that should take you to the page directly, I hope. And that Site Members 2025 is the direct link that'll take you to the sign up page. And here is the payment plan stuff. Oh, what have I done there? Go away. Here is 52 scenes, and there's a link to the payment plans I'm going to send. So you can do your payments over 3, 6, or 12 months, and you choose which ones you prefer. Okay. So here we go. These are all the links that I'm sharing, and then I'm going to hop back. I'll plan to be back tomorrow. Great. Yeah, awesome. I'm so glad you're already doing 52 scenes. I want to see you on Sunday if you can, please. MJ says story is already written, does not include a strong inciting incident. No, MJ, you don't. Okay, we go forward, we don't go backwards. And remember, it doesn't have to be a strong inciting incident. Okay, it can be a really gentle start to your story. If it isn't a big event, it's about the world building and setting up, but something needs to happen. Something needs to be unsettling. Like I said, it can just be a rumor. And then you ignore the rumor until like scene 5 or 6, and then it implodes, and then the bigger inciting moment happens. So if you've got a very small, very gentle inciting moment, you'll most likely have a bigger scene somewhere in the middle of the first quarter. Oh, yeah, that's how we balance it. Okay, so try, and as long as the story starts and as long as there are events and action happening, okay, that is all we need. So NJ, that's something I'm going to say to you again and again. I don't want you going back and making changes. Okay, write forward, make notes of changes you want to make, but I don't want you rewriting the first 3 chapters all the time and we're not getting to the end. Okay, I've said it earlier, the ending influences everything. So until you get to the end, you don't know what you need in the beginning yet. So if this was your gut instinct to start with it, that's what you start with. Okay. Helena, great, wrote something which can be part of it. That's awesome. I will see you all tomorrow. Should I be entering competitions to develop my source or contest? Or can I write 4 books in a series, or is it usually just 3 books? If it's 3 books, it's a trilogy. If it's a series, it's more than 3. So no, Sharon, you can definitely do that. Sharon, the competitions is nice to say, you know, you won a competition and you've done stuff like that. So as long as you're not writing and chasing competitions, that's not great. So what I would do is I'd still submit to competitions because it's always lovely to get it. But I would not, as long as you're not writing, okay, because that's sometimes what happens when we start chasing competitions and accolades, is we're so obsessed with entering things that we're not writing things. So as long as you're writing and entering, it's great. Okay. Your social media presence, that's a very big thing. The author platform is a big thing to grow. I have something for author platform planned for this year, Sharon, so we'll do a lot more talking about that as we go through. Okay. Dana, payment plan options have sent. It's just in there. No, the full price is $475. The discount price is $390. The full price is $479, and then the discount price is $379. The code is, Chelsea, the code is that Site Members 2025. I'm going to see if I can, oh, it won't let me copy in the chat. I'm going to see if I can share it again. No, it's only sharing my links. Let me do this. Okay, no, I've lost it now. So it's Site Members, capital S, capital M, 2025, no space. That is the code. Chelsea, I'm sorry, it's not letting me copy paste it. Okay, so you get discount, and then there are payment plans as well. If you just scroll up a little bit, you should see it. Yeah, it's Site Members. Annalise, I don't know if it's going to take it if it's caps. So at Site Members, capital S, capital M. But if it takes it, by all means, go for it. Okay, see you tomorrow, Edie. I'm so glad you joined us. Thank you. Be back tomorrow. Don't know if you have a story idea. Very interesting. That's cool, Nicola. We're just planting seeds. Okay, it's going to come. One more time. What is the code? Let me see if I can find the code again. Sorry, I've just closed all my windows. Cool. Are there more questions, friends? What else are we thinking about, talking about, looking at, wondering about? I hope you're excited and you want to go write stories. That's always a feeling that I like. So, and if there are any more questions, please let me know. Sorry, I'm just seeing if I can find the link again. I keep closing down everything. It takes like 7 steps to find something. Come on. And my computer is also telling me that it is tired now. Let's remove that. Come on. Okay, cool. Here we go. Now I can share it one more time. This is the code, because yeah, it's not letting me copy it from the code. There we go. Okay. Here it is. There we go. So excited. Pen names. Who asked? Okay, Tess, are you talking about pen names on the site or pen names in general? I've just shared the thingamabobby again. Okay. In general, Tess, that's absolutely up to you. I find with pen names, you just have to decide why you want a different pen name. It is often about, you know, people who have like genre differences. Like, let's say if you write middle grade novels and you write steamy romance erotica, you know, it might be a bit of it's not the kind of overlap we're looking for, you know. So then you may use a pen name for the one genre and for the other genre, so that those brands don't necessarily marry. But I mean, you can do whatever you want. Okay. But yes, so if there's a good reason to do it, but in my mind, it's a lot of admin. Okay, so just think about why you want to do that. If you want to keep your identity secret for a reason, by all means, go for it. But it's not as easy as you think it is. Okay, so I mean, I see so many people sign up for you know, for things with under a pen name, and then, you know, they send the wrong email address, you know, and then you can see their name and the email address. So if it's really something that you have to be that you're very protective of for your identity, for example, then you just have to be very, very careful. But it is a lot of work to do. And if you do go down a publication route, if there are any payments involved, you are going to be reverting to your legal name anyway. So just always think about what you would want to do that for that. I mean, if you think famously, J.K. Rowling wrote as Robert Galbraith, and that was, you know, when only once the book was a success, it was leaked. You know, I'm always wondering if it was really accidental or not, but because the previous things didn't do as well. So just think really hard why you'd want to do it. And then if it's a branding thing for genre, that kind of does make sense. But you're going to see when you start building your author platform, when you have to start really promoting these things, doing it for one name is already a lot. And then doing it for 2 is even more. Yeah, so Wes, for academic reasons, I mean, I would totally, hi Wes, how are you? It's awesome to see you. So I've used a pen name since I started writing fantasy fiction. So I do my academic articles under my real name. A lot of writers do that, especially if they've got like very, like the academic stuff and things like that, or, you know, like very serious jobs where they have to write these articles and stuff like that. Then they may decide to use an alternative name for the fiction. But yes, it is. But I mean, Wes, you do write under 2 different names, but it's not like you're keeping your real identity a secret, if I'm right. Unless you're not really called Wes. Okay. But cool stuff. I think I've answered all the questions. So let us see. Yeah, I've got through all of those. And then cool, friends, I will see you tomorrow. The replay will be with you as quickly as possible. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Okay. And have an absolutely awesome rest of your day. Okay. Thank you so much. Have fun. I hope your stories don't keep you up too late, but get you nice and excited. Okay. Have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.